Head of state and government from the global south continue to arrive in Cuba as Havana hosts the G77 plus China Summit. The president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, held a meeting with lawmakers of the National People's Powers of China to strengthen cooperation and friendship ties with the Asian giant. The Libyan city of Derna has buried thousands of people in mass graves as search teams source ruins left by devastating floods. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll begin with the news. Stay with us. Head of state and governments from the global south continues to arrive in Cuba as Havana hosts the G77 and China Summit. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres and Venezuelan President Paul Kagame arrived in the Cuban capital on Thursday. Both officials were received from high honor at San Jose Martin International Airport. During the next hours, other head of states and representatives of the international organization are expected to arrive in the Caribbean nation. According to the Cuban authorities, around 100 delegations are expected to participate in the G77 and China Summit to be held on September the 15th and the 16th under the theme, the current challenges of the development, the role of science, technology, and innovation. The UN chief was received by the Minister of Labor and Social Security of the Caribbean nation, Marta Elena Feito, after his arrival at the Jose Marti International Airport. Guterres also plans to meet with the UN team in Cuba. On Friday, the Secretary General will call on the member states of the G77 and China to advocate for a system based on equality during the opening ceremony of the summit of the G77 and China, the largest group within the United Nations. The government of the Dominican Republic announced the closing on Friday of all land, sea, and air borders with Haiti. The Dominican President Luis Abinader said that the decision will not affect the talks with the neighboring country. The president also assured that next week he will participate in the UN General Assembly, where the investment issues with Port-au-Prince will be discussed, and clarified that the Dominican Republic will not participate in those actions.
As of 6 a.m. tomorrow Friday, the sea, land, and air borders of the Dominican Republic with Haiti will be closed, according to the information that we offered to the National Security Council and the planning that was done in that sense. The Ministry of Defense is already prepared, and both the Army and the Air Force will be ready to fulfill that order.
The government of Colombia acknowledged wrongdoings committed by previous administrations against trade union movements in the context of the armed conflict. During an event held under the slogan, "Reporting the Dreams of Freedom," the government of Gustavo Petro initiated a new project that seeks to vindicate the state's position with the different unions movements in the country. The movements point out that they have suffered violence since the early 70s and highlights that more than 1,000 teachers were killed during the armed conflict.
For the first time, a government that we recognize as the government of change, recognizes that there have been acts against union leaders and that there must be a process of collective reparation to the union movement, and that there must also be a process of individual reparations for all the victims of the conflict in Colombia.
In Colombia, the army has suspended 10 officers after investigating images of armed soldiers threatening the villagers in northern Colombia that were passed on the social networks. So later, it was learned that they were members of the infantry battalion N33, the Batalla de Junín of the Army's 11th Brigade, and they intimidated the inhabitants of the village of El Manso in the jurisdiction of Tierra Alta Department of Córdoba.
An inspection commission of the National Army was promptly sent to the scene of the event to carry out the corresponding verifications, and it is appropriate to report that there are 10 committed military personnel who moved away from the institutional policy, the postulates of the National Army, the laws, the doctrine, the norms and the constitutional framework as it has been identified so far. The National Army ratifies the compliance and the commitment of zero tolerance to the violation of human rights, and it is important to clarify that what happens is not part of the education given to the members of the National Army in the schools of formation, training and retraining, as well as in any part of the military doctrine.
In Argentina, the Committee of the Chamber of Deputies debates amendments to the income tax law. In a parliamentary session, the Budget and Finance Committees was convened to discuss a bill dated September 12, 2023, which proposed substantial changes to the income tax law and its subsequent amendments. During the meeting, the legislators focused their proposal on having the highest tax cost fall on the taxpayers that generate the highest amount of public revenues. Let's take a short break, but remember you can now join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back from the South. Afterwards, President Nicolás Maduro held a meeting with the Assembly of the National People's Powers of China to strengthen cooperation and friendship ties with the Asian giant. The Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro described as successful and productive the meeting with representatives of the Public Power of China, the President of the Standing Committee of the Assembly, Cao Leji. Likewise, the head of the Beijing Parliament highlighted historical ties of friendship between Venezuela and China and saluted efforts of the Venezuelan head of state in firmly promoting the friendly relations between both countries for a long time.
I am happy to be in this assembly. I have visited on many occasions as a deputy, as President of the National Assembly of Venezuela, and as President of the Republic, because I appreciate the work you do for the development of China, for the strengthening of China, and I appreciate the friendship we have cultivated between the National People's Assembly of China and the people and the National Assembly of Venezuela. I want to convey to you a message of solidarity greetings from the President of the National Assembly of Venezuela, Comrade Jorge Rodriguez, and the entire legislative body of the country. This visit we have made have been extraordinary.
In this context, the Venezuelan popular leader also described history of Asia as historic due to the 31 agreements reached with the Asian giant.
All the working days, all the agreements, all the plans, all the documents approved and signed in Shenzhen, in Shanghai, in Shandong. We arrived in Shenzhen in the middle of a storm. We landed in the middle of a heavy rain, and a truly historic tour began. And then our arrival in Beijing, the working days, the signing of 31 agreements.
For her part, on Thursday, the Executive Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, visited the Chinese company's the construction group. Venezuela strengthens cooperation with China in housing construction, support of the bilateral agreement signed by both presidents in recent days. The Vice President's visits preceded that of the President of the nation signing 31 cooperation agreements in infrastructure, technology, education, and in the Belt and Road Initiative. And as part of the Venezuelan delegation, the Vice President for Social and Territorial Socialism, Mervyn Maldonado, reaffirmed the importance of the strategic alliance between China and Venezuela.
With this historic working tour of President Nicolás Maduro and President Xi Jinping, the strategic alliance has been raised to a higher level. And within the social framework, we have worked the President of the Republic, together with Director General of the International Poverty Reduction Center of China, where we have seen and studied the model of how China has managed to lift more than 98 million Chinese out of extreme poverty in the last 8 years, and that this has generated a great global impact.
For his part, the Venezuelan Minister of Productive Agriculture and the Land, Wilmer Castro, highlighted the new alliance between China and the states of Anzoátegui and Monagas in the Venezuelan territory.
The brotherhood with the state of Anzoátegui and Monagas in Venezuela was ratified and strengthened, where President Maduro has launched a new special agri-food economic zone, and in this way we are going to work with a technopolitical team from both countries to strengthen investment, development, growth and progress in food production for export.
And we stayed on topic because in this context, Beijing affirmed on Thursday that during the visit of the Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro, a strategic partnership between China and Venezuela was achieved.
This visit by Venezuelan President Maduro has achieved substantial results. The two sides issue a joint statement on the establishment of an all-weather strategic partnership between PRC and Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. We signed dozens of cooperation agreements, jointly reaching consensus in various fields, including the economy and trade, culture, tourism, aerospace, civil aviation, science and technology, and the media.
Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman added that China will continue to support Venezuela's commitments to protect its sovereignty and promote cooperation at the highest level.
China will continue to support Venezuela in its efforts to protect its national sovereignty and social stability, also supporting Venezuela's righteous undertaking to oppose external interference. We believe that this visit will effectively promote bilateral ties and cooperation in all fields to achieve a higher level and broader scope of development, also bringing more benefits to the people of the two countries.
Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, where you'll be able to watch our interviews, top stories, special broadcasts, and more. Hit the subscribe button and active the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. For financial break, don't go away. Welcome back. Myanmar's Foreign Minister Dashid met with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov during an official visit to Moscow on Thursday. The two sides discussed trade, economic, and defense cooperations, as well as the geopolitical situation in the Southeast Asian region. In the meeting, Lavrov criticized NATO for trying to spread its influence in the region.
Unfortunately, at the moment, these mechanisms are being challenged in the context of the so-called Indo-Pacific strategies of the West, which tries to block elements in the Asian-Pacific region to implement mechanisms that are aimed at holding back other countries. Mechanisms that, generally speaking, are competing and trying to rob the ASEAN of its traditional leading role regarding issues of security and cooperation in this region. Extreme danger, of course, is posed by NATO's openly announced plans to infiltrate the region and create their own rules there.
The government of Armenia received peace proposals from Azerbaijan and will respond within a reasonable period of time. At a meeting of the Councils of Ministers, Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan reported that he received new comments on the treaty on the regulations of relations and on the establishment of peaceful relations between the two countries, so they will work to provide their observations to the Armenian side. In this regard, Pashinyan noted that the situation on the border remains tense and his troops and military equipment are deployed along the border zone with Armenia and on the line of contact in Nagorno-Karabakh. On Thursday, the Egyptian Foreign Minister Samed Shoukry met with his French counterpart Catherine Colonna in Cairo. During their meeting, the two ministers discussed bilateral relations between Egypt and France, as well as the latest developments in the regions, including the Palestinian issue. In this context, as part of the joint new conference, Shoukry extended his condolences to the people of Libya, who recently faced a massive looting that resulted in the loss of thousands of lives, as well as to the Moroccan nation, who are grappling with the aftermath of the devastating earthquake that started last week. Iran and Iraq announced that the implementation of the security agreement reached to confront terrorism will start on Friday. The announcement was made by the diplomatic head of both nations who met this Wednesday in Tehran. Both the Iraqi Foreign Minister and his Iranian counterpart, Hossein Amir-Abdollahian, spoke positively of the agreement signed earlier this year to protect their common border, especially in the Kurdish region of northern Iraq.
We have received very good information about the elimination of terrorist groups from areas near the borders of the Islamic Republic of Iran, their relocation deep into Iraqi territory and the Kurdish region of the Republic of Iraq, and the efforts to disarm them and fully implement the clauses of the security agreement between the two countries. The next steps will be fully implemented in the coming days within the framework of the security agreement.
Meanwhile, Iraqi Foreign Minister Fuad Hussein stressed the viability of dialogue as a means of obtaining permits and consents in order to confront irregular groups that use the border crossing.
The issue I want to emphasize is that the relations between the two countries are good, and we hope that if there are some problems, they will be solved through dialogue and negotiations. Sometimes we see that the sovereignty of Iraq, the Kurdistan region of Iraq, is threatened with bombing or a military attack. I think we should move away from these tools because we have other ways. We have a way to talk and negotiate. We have a security agreement.
The Libyan city of Derna has buried thousands of people in mass graves. Search teams scours ruins left by devastating floods. The floods sweep away entire families on Sunday night and expose vulnerabilities in the oil-rich country. Health officials have confirmed 11,000 deaths and says 9,000 people are still missing. A UN official said on Thursday that most casualties could have been avoided if there had been a normal operating meteorological service that could have issued timely warning. Officials in eastern Libya reportedly warned the public about the coming storm but did not suggest that the dam could collapse or present an evacuation plan. A spokesperson for the European Union confirmed on Thursday that the bloc has provided to Libya after an unusual storm, a strong storm caused deadly flooding. The spokesperson for the European Commission, Balas Uvari, said at the briefing in Brussels that 500,000 euros have been released to cover the most urgent needs, adding the additional assistance might be sent over the coming hours and days. Uvari also said several European countries have pitched in to help the flood-stricken North African nation cope with the devastation. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook and Twitter and on Instagram as well. For Telesur English and from the South, I'm Ana Marrero. Thank you for watching.